All right, folks, what is going on? This is episode 467 of the First and Frame Rate Show. I am VF Baller. Over here, we talk about Georgia Southern and Atlanta Falcons football. And today, we're going to talk some Georgia Southern football. Before I get into that, I want to say the last episode got a pretty good conversation going. And I appreciate everybody who came through and commented. It was pretty interesting to see a lot of people comments. But for the most part, it really does raise some type of awareness of where the Falcons franchise is and where the fan base is at this current time. Really, really interesting. And I can't wait to have more discussions like that down the road. But I do cover Georgia Southern as well. My favorite team. I love the Georgia Southern Eagles. I mean, there's just something about them I love watching and commenting and giving my 2 cents on. So we will talk about them today. If this is your first time here, welcome. I can be found on Anchor, Stitcher, Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts. If you want to watch the visual side of this, I am on YouTube and Rumble. I'm also setting up a Locals account. I don't know if you guys know anything about Locals, but Locals is a place where it's kind of like somewhat of where a Twitter and YouTube meet type thing. You can do live streams. You can create a community over there. I won't say Twitter. I would say more like a Discord/YouTube where you can, I don't know. It's kind of fun that when I was setting it up, it's kind of fun to set it up, but I can't wait to see how it goes when I get it rolling. But just be on the lookout for that. It should be ready to go by the end of the week. But it's already set up. I just need to get things together before it can roll out properly. So be on the lookout for a Locals account where we'll talk about sports and gaming. So be on the lookout for that. All the links are down in the description if you want to support in any way, shape, or fashion. And let's go ahead and get into this. Georgia Southern is back to football after the bye week, and there's a much-needed bye week. The Georgia Southern Eagles have been through the ringer for the most part these first 8 games, and for the most part, I think they've done very well for themselves because it could have been much worse than what we thought it was because the Georgia Southern Eagles, for all intents and purposes, were one of these teams that a lot of people kind of written off a little bit. You know, even with the hire of Coach Clay Helton, a lot of people were not really too high on the Eagles. At some point, they said they was going to win maybe 4 to 5 games total. We have 4 games left, and we already at 5 wins. You know, so we're at 5-3 right now. There's a possibility that we can win out the next 4 games, but it all starts on where they're going at after this bye week. Because after the bye week, you reset, you refocus, you understand what you did and or didn't do throughout the first part of the season, and now you can focus on cleaning up a lot of that stuff. A lot of things have been going on, you know, the missed tackles, a couple of things that weren't going well on offense, defensively coverage and all the other things. And if you can get that down to where it can be cleaned up just by a little bit, it's not by much, just by a little bit. If you clean up a couple of things by a small bit, you could easily run the table. Because South Alabama, even though that, you know, ESPN kind of have us as the favorite, which is kind of weird, we should be able to do well against them. Louisiana, Marshall, and Appalachian State, all 4 of these teams, for the most part, they're not really world beaters as far as us, you know, being inferior to them. We have a chance in every single game here, and I feel that we're going to be highly competitive. As a matter of fact, every game this season we've been highly competitive in, even in the UAB game where it looks like if you look at, I will say this, on paper we've been highly competitive. That may be honestly the only game that we haven't been competitive from the eye test. But if you look at the game and we end up losing 35-21, it was a 14-point game. And in college, that's not necessarily a blowout. You know, in the NFL, that's a different story. But in college, when you lose by 14 or less, you're looking like, okay, this team still has somewhat of a chance because 14 points in the college is pretty much too much. It's not nothing. It's nothing really. You can make up 14 points in college pretty easy, no matter if you're playing at the Division III or if you're playing in the SES. Boy, what am I talking about? SEC Power 5. I mean, 14 points is not hard to make up. So you're looking at a situation where throughout the entire season, Coach Clay Helton and company, they've done a phenomenal job with the team, even with all the shortcomings. It don't look good sometimes. You have some times where the defense didn't look like they were, they look lost. But honestly, for the last couple of games against James Madison and Old Dominion, the defense actually looked pretty decent. They looked pretty good. The James Madison game, they did a pretty good job of not only just stopping Centero for the most part, even though they scored 38 points. They stopped them when it was time. And Old Dominion never really got off to doing anything. So with that being said, Georgia Southern defense has stepped up pretty well for the past, few weeks. Especially after what you've seen with Coastal Carolina and Georgia State, where technically Georgia State, they beat us because of a lot of turnovers. It wasn't too much of the defense themselves actually not playing to the top of their level, even though it did play a factor. But you just can't give the ball up 5 times. And hopefully, with going forward with this, the next few games that they have, you're not going to have that issue. You're not going to have the issue where we're turning the ball over that many times. We pretty much done a good job the last few games not giving the ball away in that fashion. When you go back and look at the James Madison game, you look at, let's say for instance, Kyle Van Treese only had a 1 interception. So that, I mean, you say that's, you don't want any turnovers, to be honest. You don't want any. But when you have a situation like that, it is really good when at the same time that 1 interception is offset by 4 touchdowns and 578 yards passing. So, yeah, compared to the Georgia State game where we gave up the ball 5 times, 1 interception, it looks really good, The Old Dominion game, the same thing. Kyle Van Treese didn't throw the ball that much. He threw the ball probably less than half the time that he did against James Madison. Only threw 27 times, 22 of 27, 192 and 1 touchdown. So I didn't see any turnovers here at all. So when you do those type of things, it bodes very well for Georgia Southern in general, because we have the capacity to run the score up on anybody. Even though the game plan didn't really put out there for us to throw the ball a lot, because Old Dominion has a pretty respectable pass rush, we still was able to run the ball and do some things that actually negated what Old Dominion wanted to do. Now, also, when you're looking at the South Alabama game, which I don't want to go too far into this game just yet, this team is 6-2 right now, 3-1 in the conference, and they still have us by a small margin, which you have a margin for error here. Still have a small margin that Georgia Southern could actually win this game, and I think they will. Being in Paulson and having your way to get over on offense is with the way that, on defense is the way that we throw the ball around. The way it looks like that game plan is going to, go very well for, Georgia Southern. You have a lot of guys here that are ready to go. Even unfortunately that we did lose, Amare Jones, we will have the next man up. I don't know how they're going to be able to play that out, because you don't want to burn too many guys red shirt, because they only can play 4 games. So it's going to be really interesting to see who plays where. It'll be interesting to see, because now I think I'm not sure about Marcus Sanders. I don't know if he played 4 games yet, but you don't want to burn his red shirt. Then you got Joshua Thompson, another freshman that don't want to burn their red shirt. And be on the lookout for Dalen Cobb. A lot of people don't talk about Dalen Cobb enough, and we haven't talked about him much, but this is a kid that I know that has some experience in running the ball. And I'm not talking about running the ball as a running back. I'm just talking about just getting the ball in his hands and making things happen. This is a kid that's a true freshman. I watched some of his tape, and he could be one of these guys that actually do some things in space. So even though that Amare Jones is not playing, then you have Marcus Sanders and possibly Josh Thompson. You don't want to risk burning their red shirt watch Dalen Cobb. Dalen Cobb is another guy that we may see sometime down the road. I'm actually surprised that we haven't saw him yet, but like I said, with these true freshmen, you don't want to, put it out there to where they can lose their red shirt, lose their extra year of eligibility, and I think a lot of these true freshmen are, out there they're ready to go. I'm not sure. I think, I'm almost certain that the running back, O.J. Arnold, I don't think he's going to be redshirted. Not this year anyway. Because I think he's played a lot of games so far, which is not, I'm not saying it's a good or a bad thing. It's just that when you are good, if you're not good enough of a player, it's just going to happen. Now, quote me if I'm wrong. I'm not sure because I haven't watched. I haven't kept track of every game that O.J. Arnold played, but I know he played a significant amount of time. But nevertheless, back to the receivers, which I think the receivers are going to be pretty much. They're gonna be the ones that's actually going to be real important in this game. So they're going to be important going down the stretch, because if you look at every single game that we have left, all four of these teams aren't very good against the pass. They aren't very good against the pass. And the main thing is we just got to keep Kyle Van Treese upright, which I think we've done a pretty good job of overall. And as long as we do that, we're going to be fine. So looking at the rest of the schedule, and you have these four teams, I think we're gonna be able to pass the ball pretty well. I just think so. I mean, you look at all South Alabama, Louisiana, Marshall, and Appalachian State. I don't think they defend the pass very well. I looked at a few games that Appalachian State actually, had. They're not pretty good against the pass. I mean, their secondary is not the best. Marshall is so-so as well. Louisiana just fell all the way apart since Billy Napier is not there anymore. And talk about Billy Napier. I mean, look at that Florida team. Look like they're falling apart as well. They had to get rid of a player. But, I mean, that's what else is new? And South Alabama is probably like the toughest game that we have for the rest of the season. And, Appalachian State always plays hard, but I think South Alabama is a more formidable opponent going into this Saturday. But going forward, bouncing back after a bye week, overall this team has been a very successful team. We went 3-9 last year. Now we're 5-3. Then you got these 4 games that look like they're very winnable. Like we can run the table here. At best 2-2. I don't expect anything less than 2-2. Then with that being said, that it gives us a 7-5 season, but I'm still leaning towards the 8-4 season. I'm still kind of weary. If we was to lose a game, I think it'd be South Alabama or Marshall, which I don't want to say we'll lose at Paulson, because the next 3 games the 3 out of the 4 games are at Paulson. But if I had to choose, maybe South Alabama or Marshall, because those are formidable opponents. But I would not mind saying Louisiana either, because we're playing away. Because I don't know how that game's going to play out. But then again, we just went to Old Dominion and beat them as well. So I don't know how it's going to play out. But overall, Georgia Southern has a pretty good chance to do good things for the rest of the season. And with them being at 5-3 and them coming off of a bye week, and even though we lost Amare Jones, the rest of the team is intact, and be on the lookout for other guys to step up in their place. In his place. It's very unfortunate that you lost him. I just saw on the press conference that he lost he's out of his eligibility. So, hopefully that he will go out and try to make a team in the NFL, because I think he has all the skills for it. Absolutely, I think he can do good on special teams. He can catch the ball, in the slot. He can do a lot of things, and it's going to be really interesting to see where that goes, because I think he can make a roster somewhere, and I truly believe that. But nevertheless, we're going to see what happens with Georgia Southern. We're a few more days away until the game. We're going to talk more about that. We'll talk a little bit more about these Falcons, because we got to go up against the San Diego Chargers as well. So we'll talk about them throughout the week as well. So be on the lookout for all of that. If you like this commentary, hit the like button, share this podcast, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Once again, I'm on YouTube and Rumble. I am on Anchor, Stitcher, Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts. once again, before I get out of here, I'm going to say I'm creating a locals account. If you guys want to, go over there, we could discuss some things, create a community of sports and sports gaming. If you don't know, you can look at my background. If you're watching on YouTube and Rumble, I do play video games. It's one of my things that I love to do, a fantastic hobby. I just got finished going live on my other YouTube channel late last night, and that was fun. Even though I got a copyright claim on that stream, but that's another story for another day. We'll talk about that then. All right, y'all. I'm gonna get out of here, and you guys take it easy. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. Gotta go run some errands, and then I'll probably be on my other channel playing some games again. All right, y'all. Y'all take it easy. Y'all be blessed. Peace.